Disclaimer. This was made by aldrine25. But I'm just making a video of this for you to enjoy. I will link the original in the description for you to read for yourself. Anyways, enjoy! 7-year-old Dash and his 4-year-old little sister Dot live in the suburbs with their parents, Dennis and Denise, where they go along with their usual lives. One day, Dennis and Denise drop off their children at school and bid farewell to them as Dash and Dot go inside the school for another day of learning and playing with their friends. After school ends, Dash and Dot stand outside the school waiting for their parents to pick them up, but they never show up even after a few hours have passed. Dot gradually grows impatient at their parents' absence before Dash suggests that they take the path back home by walking, which Dot begrudgingly agrees to. Once the two kids manage to make it home by night, they find the house empty with no one in sight, and search all over the house to find any traces of their parents, but to no avail. Growing increasingly devastated, Dot cries out for their parents and then breaks down in tears, so Dash comforts her and assures Dot that they will find them soon as he allows her to sleep in his bed to make her feel better. The next morning, Dash and Dot try to theorize guesses on how their parents could have disappeared, but none of them are valid. Desperate to seek help, Dash and Dot produce several missing posters of their parents and plaster them all over the neighborhood, but nobody is able to recount the last thing that happened to Dennis and Denise. Walking back home, Dash and Dot almost lose hope until the former steps on something on the floor and picks it up, revealing that it is Denise's necklace. As Dash questions where their parents might have gone, Dot then finds something underneath the couch, takes it out and gives it to the former. To their shock, it is an anonymous note demanding a ransom of $5,000. Which Dash takes as the second clue to their parents' disappearance and concludes that they haven't just disappeared, they've been kidnapped. Deciding that there's only one thing left to do, Dash announces that he and Dot will get out there and search for their parents. So he prepares a backpack, fills it with supplies that might help him and Dot, and leads his little sister out of the house to begin their adventure. However, a few moments as they make their way into the street, Dash and Dot come upon a heavy traffic jam on the highway that seems to take forever. As Dot ponders about what they are going to do now, a determined Dash walks around in a circle trying to think, and when he notices a nearby streetlight, he gets an idea. He climbs the streetlight, looks down at the long line of vehicles and jumps down from the pole, successfully landing on top of a car. He then helps Dot up onto the top of the car, but just as they are about to make their way across the street through the top of another, the traffic light suddenly flashes green and all of the vehicles start moving abruptly with the two kids on top of the car they were on. Jumping from vehicle to vehicle with Dash, Dot narrowly loses her footing and almost falls to the road below before Dash catches her, after which they finally get back down to the ground and keep moving. Meanwhile, the culprit responsible for the disappearance of Dennis and Denise is revealed to be a kidnapper named Mason, who has kept them bound and gagged in his hideout. He speaks cordially in a mocking way to them before showing his true tone and demanding $5,000, which Dennis and Denise vehemently refuse to. Continuing their journey across the town, Dash and Dot eventually come upon their grandparents, Duncan and Dono, who assume that they run away from home and allow them to stay with them. As Dono makes their grandchildren feel cozy, Dash tells her and Duncan that the real reason they've been wandering alone is that their parents have been kidnapped and they've left home to search for them. Having flashbacks of yesterday, Dot starts to feel sad again, so Dono shares with her granddaughter an experience she had as a child, where she thinks her parents have disappeared and left her distraught until they returned home. After some motivation from their grandparents, Dash and Dot eventually thank them and leave their house to resume their adventure. After walking some more, Dot eventually tires out and starts complaining about having to walk any longer, so Dash, noticing that he and her sister had just passed by the junkyard, decides to lead her there so that they can find a more efficient way of traveling. They manage to construct a makeshift car out of a wagon, some old car parts and an engine, and take it out for a test drive before driving it down the street. However, Dot, who is enjoying the ride a little too much, starts fighting with Dash over the steering wheel, causing them to go careening out of control and crash into a forest, wrecking their vehicle in the process. Realizing that Dot has ruined their chance of getting closer to where their parents are kept hostage at, Dash loses his temper and goes on a long tirade towards her, where she responds by backtalking to Dash. After a hostile and aggressive argument between the two ensues, Dash ends the argument by disowning Dot, telling her that she is not his sister anymore, and walks away to find their parents himself, leaving a devastated and guilt-stricken Dot behind as it starts raining. As he goes on his way though, Dash takes out a picture of him, Dotting their parents out from his backpack and looks at it with vague reconsideration before putting it back inside and going along. Meanwhile, Dot, who is struggling to survive in the rain by taking refuge underneath a tree, starts to feel anxious about woodland creatures lurking about before a bear suddenly comes out of nowhere and starts chasing her. Dash hears her screams for help in the distance, has a change of heart and rushes back to save his sister. Before the bear can kill Dot, Dash jumps on the bear and starts hitting it, giving Dot a chance to escape. Dash is eventually pinned down by the bear and is about to be killed by it before it is suddenly stopped by Dot tossing stones and rocks at it. After the bear flees in response to Dot yelling boldly at it, Dash thanks her sister for saving his life, with Dot likewise returning the favor. Dash then apologizes to Dot for his earlier behavior and reconciles with her before making their way out of the forest. After making their way back into the city and trudging along some more, Dash and Dot start pondering on where exactly their parents are until they hear some screaming coming from a nearby abandoned one-story building, so they make their way to said building to investigate.